What would you do if a stranger's accusation turned your quiet retreat into a battleground? In the heart of Willow Valley, where the air smells of pine and the horizon glows with the soft hues of dawn, my cabin stood as a sanctuary. It was a modest wooden haven, built by my own hands, nestled among towering oaks on a sprawling acreage I'd inherited from my grandfather. This land wasn't just dirt and trees, it was my refuge, my history, my peace, until Karen arrived. My name is Elias Turner, a carpenter by trade, a dreamer by heart. I'd spent years restoring the cabin, pouring my soul into every plank and nail. The valley was my escape from the city's clamor, a place where I could breathe, think, and carve out a life that felt true. That summer, I'd finally settled in, ready to spend my days sketching designs and my nights stargazing. The nearest neighbor was miles away, or so I thought. It started with a distant hum, the kind that creeps into your awareness like a mosquito in the dark. I was sanding a cedar chair on my porch when I saw a Hera woman in a pristine white SUV, her blonde bob glinting in the sun, her eyes hidden behind oversized sunglasses. She stepped out, clipboard in hand, her heels sinking into the soft earth. I waved, assuming she was lost. The valley wasn't exactly a tourist hotspot. "You're trespassing," she said, her voice sharp, like a blade slicing through the morning calm. "This land belongs to the Willow Valley Trust. I'm Karen Whitmore, the trustee. You need to leave." I blinked, confused. "Ma'am, I own this land, all 50 acres of it. Inherited it from my grandfather, Amos Turner. I've got the deed to prove it." Her lips pursed, and she scribbled something on her clipboard. "We'll see about that. I've already called the sheriff. They'll sort this out." I laughed, thinking it was a misunderstanding. "No need for that. I can show you the paperwork right now." But Karen wasn't interested in paperwork. She turned on her heel, got back in her SUV, and sped off, leaving a cloud of dust in her wake. I stood there, my hands still dusty from sanding, wondering what had just happened. The valley was quiet again, but the peace felt fractured. The sheriff arrived an hour later, a burly man named Deputy Harris with a tired look in his eyes. He was polite, almost apologetic, as he explained that Karen had filed a complaint, claiming I was squatting on protected land. I invited him inside, showed him the deed, the survey maps, and even a faded photo of my grandfather standing by the cabin's foundation in the 70s. Harris nodded, satisfied, and promised to clear things up. But as he left, he warned me, "Karen's got influence around here. She's not one to back down." I didn't know what he meant until the next day. I woke to the sound of engines, multiple vehicles this time. Peering out my window, I saw Karen's SUV again, flanked by 2 others. A man in a suit, probably a lawyer, and a woman with a camera were with her. They were pacing my property line, pointing at my cabin like it was evidence in a crime scene. My stomach churned. This wasn't just a misunderstanding. It was a campaign. I stepped outside, my heart pounding. "What's going on here?" Karen smirked, her sunglasses reflecting my own frustrated face. "This land is part of a conservation trust. Your so-called deed is outdated. We're developing a community center here, and your shack is in the way." "Community center?" I echoed, incredulous. "This is private property. My property." The lawyer, a slick man named Gregory, handed me a stack of papers. "We have documentation proving the trust's claim. You'll need to vacate by the end of the week." I skimmed the papers, my hands shaking. They were filled with legal jargon, but one thing stood out. The dates didn't add up. The trust's claim was based on a filing made last year, long after my grandfather's deed was notarized. I looked up at Karen, her smug expression fueling my resolve. "This is nonsense," I said. "I'm not going anywhere." That's when the twist came, unexpected and sharp. The woman with the camera, who'd been quiet until now, stepped forward. Her name was Lila, and she wasn't with Karen. She was a journalist, working on a story about fraudulent land grabs in rural areas. She'd been tipped off about Karen's trust, and had come to document the confrontation. "I've been tracking Ms. Whitmore for months," Lila said, her voice steady but laced with disgust. She's done this before, targeting isolated properties, forging documents, and bullying owners into selling cheap. Karen's face paled, but she recovered quickly. That's slander. I'm protecting this valley for the community. Lila held up her phone, displaying a recording app. I've got interviews with 3 other landowners you've tried this on. Care to explain? The air crackled with tension. Gregory, the lawyer, started backing away, muttering about client confidentiality. Karen's composure cracked, her voice rising to a shrill pitch. You can't prove anything. This is my project, my vision. I felt a surge of hope, but it was short-lived. Karen wasn't done. Over the next week, she escalated her tactics. Signs went up around my property, declaring it condemned for development. Strangers drove by, taking photos. I found survey stakes hammered into my land, marking out plots that didn't exist. Every day brought a new harassment, anonymous letters, calls from fake inspectors, even a drone buzzing over my cabin at night. I barely slept, my nerves frayed, my sanctuary now a war zone. Lila became my ally, digging deeper into Karen's scheme. She uncovered a paper trail linking Karen to a shady developer who planned to turn the valley into a luxury retreat for the ultra-wealthy. The community center was a lie, a front to seize land at a fraction of its value. Lila's articles started gaining traction online, and soon, locals were rallying behind me, showing up with coffee and words of support. Felt good, but it wasn't enough. Karen had money, connections, and a ruthless streak I hadn't anticipated. The breaking point came when I found my grandfather's old oak tree, his favorite, where he'd carved his initials chopped down. A note was pinned to the stump, "Leave or lose more." I sank to my knees, the weight of it all crushing me. This wasn't just about land. It was about erasing my family's legacy, my connection to the man who'd taught me to love this valley. I wanted to fight, but I was exhausted, outmaneuvered. Lila urged me to take it to court. "We have evidence," she said. "We can stop her." So we did. I hired a lawyer, a gruff woman named Marta who'd grown up in the valley and hated Karen's kind. The case was airtight, my deed was ironclad. Karen's documents were riddled with inconsistencies, and Lila's exposé had turned public opinion against her. The judge ruled in my favor, ordering Karen to pay damages and cease her harassment. The valley was mine again, but victory tasted like ash. The cabin, once my haven, felt tainted. Every creak of the floorboards reminded me of the drone's hum. Every gust of wind carried the echo of Karen's voice. I'd won the land, but I'd lost my peace. The locals celebrated. Lila got her big break, and Karen disappeared, likely to prey on another unsuspecting owner. But I couldn't stay. I sold the acreage to a conservation group, ensuring it would remain untouched, a final tribute to my grandfather. As I drove away, the valley fading in my rearview mirror, I felt a hollow ache. I'd fought for my home, exposed a predator, and preserved a legacy, but at what cost? The cabin was still standing, but it wasn't mine anymore, not in the way it had been. Sometimes winning means losing something you can't name. Yendi.